So now we've got the kids very curious about seeds, and now, so the natural thing to do is that we want them to start to sow. And one of the easiest things, especially if you're still indoors, it's winter time when we want to get them curious, we want them to start getting growing. And one of the best things that I know is what I call a wicking cup. And so a wicking cup is one of these plastic cups, doesn't have to be red. So the first cup, there's no holes in the bottom, because the second cup, you're going to put the holes at the bottom. I've got 3 punched in the bottom of this guy already. And I tend to use a carpenter's awl or something which just will bang a hole right through the bottom. And what's going to happen is we're going to put the cup inside, and we won't be watering the top. What we're going to be doing is putting the water in the bottom. And the benefit of doing it this way is that it's very difficult for the children to overwater. Because if we water from the top, they'll just fill this thing and it'll be like soup. Whereas what you do is you put the water in the bottom to water. All they have to do is lift it out, and all the water got sopped up by the soil, and then they can add more, and then the soil doesn't get waterlogged, and that really is helpful. So they don't do that bit first. So what would they do is now trowels. Often we don't want to use metal trowels because they're too big for the kids and they're metal. Adults can use those guys. What I love is using plastic ones, but not just ordinary plastic. This is this really hard plastic. And I've had these guys for years and none of them have been broken. Or you can get one of these guys. It doesn't have to be expensive. And they love doing it like this, and it will take them a long time to fill it. And then a few adventurous ones will do this. And we want them to do this because then they get the feel of the soil on their hands. And then, so see how I've got them to fill it up and then tell the kids to pat it down like this. And while we're talking about what I'm using, I call it soil, but really this is potting soil. And if we're going to be planting in cups like this, then we don't want to use garden soil. So all you need is potting soil that has peat in it, some compost, and the perlite. Perlite is the little white things. And these guys absorb air and also moisture, and they really help our potting soil. Don't spend a ton of money. We don't need a lot of fertilizers. You don't need microbeads, all sorts of other things that they tend to put in potting soil. You just want good stuff. So then you're going to get the kid to put his cup in here, and now he can practice learning how to seed. So typically what the children love to do, because they've been sort of taught this way, is that they love to great big hole. So they go plunk, plunk, and plunk. That's way too deep for most seeds. Remember when we were looking at the teeny tiny seeds? If we put one of those teeny tiny seeds this deep in the soil, it's not going to have enough food to grow and come out at the top and then become a seedling. So it's a great way to kill a whole bunch of seeds. So what we want to do instead is, and we're going to use pea seeds for this one. And the reason I'm using peas is because they're big and they're easy for the children to handle. And I love using little trays so that the kids can hold a tray. And what you don't want to do is give them all of these seeds, because guess what? They'll all go on, and then that's too many seeds. So what I like to do instead is I'll give them in their tray just enough seeds for this particular activity. Let's get rid of the extras. Now I'm going to have a whole bunch of seeds growing in my soil, I gather. All right. So what you want to do is, and then they can put them in their hands. Kids like to do their hands like this. Tell them to cup their hand, and then they can just tip these seeds there. So what we want to do is place the seed on top and every inch apart. So for a cup like this with peas, we're going to put them every inch. It's going to be fairly dense. Normally with peas, we would sow them every 2 or 3 inches, but we want to have in this cup something growing that's kind of fun. So now we talk about the fact that the seeds, how deep do we put them? And if this was a teeny tiny seed, we would just pat them into the soil and not cover them. These are kind of big seeds, so we're going to measure by fingertips I don't tell them 1/2 inch because the child doesn't really know what a 1/2 inch is. So we're going to say no deeper than the baby fingernail on your pinky finger. And so now they're just going to push it down only as deep as their baby finger. And that works wonders because now they're aided. They're doing it slower, and they're watching, and they're measuring, and they're watching how they're doing things. Now they can just put a little extra soil on top to cover the holes. Pat it down. So now, because once the seeds are in here, we have no clue what is in here, we're not going to remember, we want to put a label in. So you can write on the cup if you want to with a black Sharpie, but the children love making labels. So I use either popsicle sticks or craft sticks if it's a bigger container. But for this one, we'll just use a popsicle stick, and you make yourself a little label. You can laminate them if you want to. But you just put this on, put your little tape on the back, or a glue stick, or white glue if you want to. You can use that as well. And then you just pop it in here. And the easy part of as well is you can also put the name of the child on the back so that they don't take home Johnnies instead of themselves. And that really does help alleviate anxiety. Now, the children here are going to lift up the cup, and they're going to pour in about 1 inch of water, and you got to tell them to stop, and now they're done, and they can take this home. It helps, by the way, if you pre-moisten the soil. You'll notice that this potting soil has got a fair amount of moisture in it already, so we really don't need to do any watering overhead at all. But if they insist, you can do just a little bit of water on the top, but not too much. And this will help when they take them home, because gardening is not just at the childcare center or wherever we are. We want them to be doing this at home as well. So all they have to do is place this in a window with a nice bright sunny light coming in through the window, and they're going to continue to water it. So every day or every couple of days they're going to lift it up, and they're going to go, oh, there's hardly any water in here. So let's put another inch of water in. And there they go. And pretty soon, especially with peas, they're going to start to see little green seedlings coming up. They won't see the roots growing, but they'll see the stem coming up, and then the baby leaves, and then the true leaves, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.